Okay, this video is difficult to make because it covers some sensitive topics. I'm watching all of the James Bond films in order, and I've noticed as I have proceeded through the episodes that there is an increased obsession with stuffing it full of feminism. First of all, they tried to make the woman the equal of James Bond, then they realised they couldn't, it was a joke. And then they tried to produce situations where the woman was victimized by evil men, and that's the whole problem here. I don't watch a James Bond film to be emotionally manipulated. Now you might say, oh well, you do, because you are being taken on a ride, a thrill ride. But that's not the same as having an emotionally manipulative agenda stuffed into my face. I'm not interested in it. Not in the slightest. It just fouls up the whole film. I'm not interested in seeing a woman play out her vengefulness against mankind, or against men, or against a man. That's not what James Bond is about at all. Not in any way. But these fools are trying to stuff it into these films. And they might argue, oh well, that's the way the world... The problem isn't... Well, the problem is that what this thing called feminism is it's an evil thing that's been created for an outcome. And it's been dressed up as something it isn't. And that's the problem with feminism. Okay? Labeling it feminism, I mean, in a way that reveals what it really is anyway, because it's a lie. Because at once, anyone who has, shall we say, bought into it would have learned that the people who are pushing it suggest that it's, oh no, it's about equality. No, it's not. It's about undermining men and women. Okay? By reducing men's influence in society and artificially propping up women's. Okay? That's what it is. But it's not for a good outcome. It was never intended to be for a good outcome. Like a lot of these things, it's actually intended to use the people it's affecting. So it undermines men and upsets them. Alright? And it puts massive pressure on women and causes a rift between men and women in general. That's the whole purpose of it, to divide. Okay? Now imagine if you are in the position of the people who have designed this and need to put it into society for their own agenda, for their own outcome. They need to dress it up as something that it isn't, otherwise people will just reject it. If they said, we're going to aggravate, antagonize and anger women against men, and we're going to try to undermine men, women would be like, no, we don't want this, and men would be like, no, we don't want this. So they dressed it up as something it wasn't, and that's the poison. That's the thing that they've done. Okay? It's like a bomb that's wrapped up as a present. Okay? And that's what they've done. That's what feminism truly is. Okay? Which is why, if you ever have a rational debate with someone who's bought into it, and I would never call someone a feminist per se, because they don't exist. Because you can't. It's based upon a lie. There's nothing inside the box, so to speak. It's a lie, but it's poisonous. So people who have bought into it, if you have a debate with them about it, it unravels very quickly, and they get very upset very quickly because that thing that they bought into with their emotions is destroyed before their eyes, and they do everything they can to run away from the conversation. And the people who have produced this have tried to issue these people with comebacks, but they never work because they're all based upon lies. They're all based upon untruths. So this proves it. If you actually have open and proper debate with people about this, then it's exposed immediately, and they go away really horrified with how foolish they feel because they were taken in by it, and they are horribly embarrassed. And they're also resentful because they resent the person who exposed them to it. But you have to do it. So I will stand by this forever. Feminism undermines women and men and aims to divide them. Okay? The idea was to try and demonize men, which is what happens ultimately. Which is the message that's being inserted subliminally into society through the media. And if you want to know who's behind it, all you have to do is follow where it's coming from, and you'll see exactly who's behind it and what their agenda is. So it's being thrown into society, and the problem is that we have this, the media itself is not a problem. It's just media. But it's how it's being manipulated and used, and who's behind it, and who has the ability to manipulate and use it. That's the problem. And we've allowed our media to get into the wrong hands. We've done the same thing with our states, machinery, with our governments. We've allowed it to get into the wrong hands, and this all has to be rectified. Every country has to, individually and independently, and hopefully we would help each other as countries, remove the perpetrators of this nonsense, this poison, from places where they can actually do harm. And that's the future. It has to happen. It must happen. And the people who are behind it will do anything they can to stop it. And they are very efficient and effective, but they're not absolutely powerful at all. They're not. One thing they fear more than anything is exposure. But because they're obsessed with this journey that they're on, they have accounted for the possibilities of being found out. And that's where the danger lies. Because as a group, these people are quite willing to sacrifice those around them, even members of their own, to escape from the persecution of those who would seek to sort the problem that they have caused out. So, whatever action is taken has to be carefully taken and measuredly taken. But ultimately, the outcome has to be a better society, and that society is not based upon it's not based upon artificial equality between any aspects of humanity at all. Right? It's based upon, and it's not based upon aggravation of one set of people against another, which is what these people do. They play different people against each other, which is why they have designed a situation whereby every single person who could possibly be considered a minority of any description, belief, physical attribute, whatever, has been, that's been pumped in the media, which these people have a heavy influence in. And the intention is to try and cause maximum disruption whilst pretending they're not. Okay? It's like a clown dancing in front of you while the rest of his friends are robbing your house. That's exactly what it is. That is the perfect analogy of what's going on. Alright? And that's the problem with our media. Now, the reason that clown has that position is because they've been allowed in. They've wormed their way in. They've worked their way in slowly. And they've gotten that position. So we have to resolve this situation, and it can be resolved. We can get these people out of these positions where they're doing damage and harm to our society, our precious societies. And it's not only happening in my country, it's happening everywhere, because these people are obsessed with the idea of one world government, for example. That's one of their potential outcomes. In order to figure out what these people are doing, all you have to do is essentially reverse engineer it. You have to look at what's happening and say, okay, why? Why would that be happening? Okay, because of this. Okay, why would that be happening? Okay, because of this. Oh, I see. So it's most likely that what's happening is this and this because of this. Alright, fine. Then what else is happening? And you work backwards down the line, and eventually you can figure it out. Anyone who ever practiced the practice of reverse engineering anything can do this. Well, you can do it yourself. You don't have to be an engineer of any kind. All you have to do is say, okay, why was this done? And then you can, through deductive reasoning, you can actually figure out what the hell is going on. And that's what I've done. And that's what other people have done. And so if you actually apply your mind, you can figure out what these people are doing quite quickly. And then you start to see the aggression with which they push the alternative story. Yeah, they come up with labels. Labeling things is one of their biggest tools. If you put a label on something, I mean, they are very aware of human psychology. They have to be, in a way that normal people aren't, because their obsession with it is what keeps them safe, or they think keeps them safe. But they figure that if you label something, it stops a person thinking. All right, and they rationalize this on the fact that, for example, if you get into an aggressive altercation with someone and you start calling them a name, you've dehumanized them, you've labeled them, you've labeled that thing and put it in a box in your mind of not this, it's this. That person's not a friend, not someone I can care about. They are something which is attackable, right? So if you label something, the idea is that you stop people thinking about it. Right? You've given it the name, you put it in a box, and that's that. So they are obsessed with labeling things. That's why you've got so many labels and names. It's an ism. Oh, it's such and such ism. It's such and such ism. All right? Thereby removing the notion of analysis, or so they think. But it will never work, because all it takes is an intelligent person to say, hang on, this is nonsense. And therein lies another problem. They are obsessed with trying to create stupidity among people by doing everything for them, by creating a society where everything is done for people. The problem is their obsession with the belief that the lowest common denominator will rule everything is nonsense, because the complete opposite is true. All right? You always have a few who are intellectually inclined and who are leadership orientated to lead. The rest of the people kind of follow, which is why they're obsessed with democracy. All right? Oh, but democracy's... No, look. Democracy is an effective tool, right? If everyone in your country is is working above board with it, it's fine. As an electoral tool, it's fine. But when you've got a corrupt democracy, it's ruined. The instant it's corrupted, it's gone, it's ruined. And that's what we've got. We've got an artificial democracy. It's a stage show. It's a joke. So people say, oh, well, dictatorship's all evil. No. All you have with a democracy is you have a situation, and a democratic electoral system. All you have is an elected dictator, right? But our dictators have no strength anymore, because they can't get anything done, because the people who are really pulling their strings know how to remove them from office in a heartbeat. So what would you prefer? What would you prefer? A dictatorship where you knew where you stood, all right? Now in the past we had kings and queens, right? We had a bad king, or we had a good king, yeah? We went through eras of bad and good, right? What's the difference with a democratically elected leader? There's no difference. There's no difference at all. Whether they inherit their title or whether you vote them in, there is no difference at all. The only difference is you have the feeling that you have the power to remove that person from power. And that's fine. If and only if your system belongs to your own people. But when it's been infiltrated and taken over like ours has, it's ruined in a heartbeat. It's the same with our banking system. It's not in our hands. It's in the hands of private groups. Well, how can you have your national bank in the hands of a private organisation who have no loyalty to your country? It's crazy. This all has to be fixed. It all has to be fixed. We have to work on it. The same as the people who have done this have worked on it for a long time. We now have to apply ourselves to fixing it. And that's a fact. That's just the simple truth. It's not going to be done overnight. But if we apply ourselves, it will be done. It will be done. That's all. So yeah, at the moment we can look around ourselves and say, oh, things are crummy. Well, when you start to figure out why, then you can start to implement a better solution. And that's how this is going to go. It's simple. It doesn't even have to be nasty. It just has to be rational. And then we can all work on things properly, with the truth, instead of lies, which is what we're stuck with at the moment, which they don't have any substance. Anyway, that's all for today.